could you tell me more of like what y'all do?
Yeah, like in terms of what we just do is our cases and our work.
Yeah, so you're both lawyers.
No. So
No?
I'm a housing paralegal.
I'm
Sorry.
like,
I'm like,
what's
when
going
people
on?
refer to me a lawyer, I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. Been in big trouble for that. So I'm a housing paralegal with the office. I'm bilingual in English and Spanish. So I come out to community organizations. We've been doing it with a couple other organizations in the community. Come out, meet with people, talk to them, what are their problems, try and figure out, if there's like a legal angle. I have my attorneys who I work very closely with. There's a group of probably about, I don't know, housing attorneys, I would say 7 or 8 who are, specifically focused on issues. I will do intakes with folks. I will give brief advice under the supervision of an attorney. At times I can ghostwrite letters for them that I think might help their cases. And then usually if I see something kind of strange or weird, then that's when I rope in my attorneys to, take on a case where I think there may be something going on.
So you play like a liaison in
Yeah.
sort. Okay.
Yeah, and I also serve as like a direct contact for folks. So like even if I'm not at the clinic, I'm happy to have folks contact me, although I am leaving the organization, unfortunately. But, I'll be around. And the folks that are in the office are truly amazing. There's another attorney I work very closely with. His name is Garrett Wright. He used to do a lot of housing work back in New York, has tons of experience working with communities of color. He's amazing. He's super accessible. He's quick to respond to people, and as is everyone else in the office. But he really is the one who's kind of been coming out, although he'll be having more support now that I'll be gone from the office. So there will be more attorneys available that I think will be alternating and making themselves more available to folks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are the main concerns as far as in the housing field that are brought to you? What are the most concerns that you're receiving
Like the
right
clients
now?
are saying are the biggest needs.
Right now, like what is going on recently?
There's a lot. It's like a mixed bag. We do, in our office, tend to look at the more urgent, like evictions and things, so people are being displaced from their homes, especially if they're being displaced from like a project-based Section 8 housing, right? Because we know that that housing is so hard to come by that when somebody's gonna be removed from that, it's gonna be hard to get back on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's like where are they gonna go,
Yeah,
right?
those are huge. We also, what other cases would you say?
I think we're seeing a lot right now of just like the new Portland stuff for
Yeah.
folks that are living in
Yeah.
Portland because it's so new. I think landlords either know about it and aren't following it, or just don't know about it, or not taking the time to stay abreast of what they need to know to run their business. So I think we see a lot of that. But then it's just the stuff that low-income folks face, which is crappy housing. Landlords are taking advantage of them, and we see a lot of housing discrimination that maybe we know what it is, right? There's a lot of like racialized language around lease behavior, right? The number of tenants of color I've helped that have had like notices for excessive traffic. Like, what does that mean, right?
You got too many cousins.
That's a really common term, and like
It is.
we know what that means, right?
Yeah.
We know what that's about. And so there's so many cases where race is a factor, right? It may not be a race discrimination case that we can prove in court, but we know race is a factor. And so, we are really want to make sure that we are doing that work, is even if we can't call it race discrimination, we can't say this is a fair housing violation, we know that it is discrimination, right?
Are you seeing more of the racial discrimination recently than you've seen in the past? Is there more of an uprising?
Or is there any data?
That's
Is there
just
any
frustrating
data?
for me because it's like it's been going on. Race is definitely such a factor. And like sometimes we say like how do we get to a point where we're like, dude, this is blatant racism. Like you're not saying that it is, but
So do we enforce racism? Because we have anti-racism laws in the country. We have anti-discrimination laws.
Yeah.
But if you don't have access to legal support, then you can't defend yourself, correct? And maybe also the courts don't see us as people when we go in there. So sometimes even if we do have legal support, the court will look at us as digligent, and not important enough to, carry on a trial or whatever we want to do. So I think that part of our work as activists in this partnership is to start building the civic engagement around these issues and utilizing our platform to educate people on the information we're learning from you. I think that when you're fighting for people as lawyers and as paralegals getting this information, you're privy to all those different circumstances, and because you have to research what can be done, you see what isn't being done. And then us as political activists, we're always fighting for what needs to be done, right? We're always fighting to remove barriers and also to improve access. And so I think this partnership will help us build kind of the resistance that we need and the outreach that we should be doing. I don't think that all of the answers are here in this room right now, but I think that the people that play a role in developing what it looks like are, right?
I have a question. So, to me, when I hear about some of the concerns that people have about housing, first of all, I don't want to like mark-splain things to people, because to me, the problem so clearly is that housing is a commodity. It is traded on a market, and thereby like tends toward discrimination and pricing out. Like, that is the point. Housing wouldn't be as expensive as it is if it were recognized and treated like a human right. Because it is a relative rarity, you can't get it, it's too expensive for you. That's what makes it as valuable as it is. So to me, I think, okay, so take the market out, right? And you don't have to do that in one fell swoop, and all housing is sort of public, within the public domain. But I think, okay, well then there should be social housing. And yet that is treated like an absolutely impossible thing to do politically, even though to me it's so blatant, and I don't think that I'm a genius. So let's say there is a movement for social housing. How does it even begin? Okay.
Yeah.
Or not. It's okay.
No, I'm with you. I just,
It's I think,
No,
I mean, the
so-
same way, I mean, it's the same way that we do our political activism. We identify the need, we look at what is legal in our state, what is accessible in our state, and then we work to change that, because we know it doesn't include our access, right? And that's why, I mean, again, the legal clinic, learning the process, learning the policies, I'm thinking that what you're talking about is not too far off. It's just that no one has had the political will to do it, right?
And you say social housing, what do you mean?
Public housing.
Like
Publicly owned, not private, not for profit, like nonprofit housing, but not by a nonprofit that
Agency
uses
that's
a developer
taking of
to
right.
pay them, and then you get your money that way, right? You get your money from the agency or the program,
So
which is
some-
still for profit
Profit,
housing.
right.
It's just your access point is a nonprofit. It's disgusting.
Right.
So you want, in a sense, like privatized, do you, I'm trying to-
Publicized.
Publicized.
Publicly owned.
Publicly owned, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the city of Portland, the county of Multnomah, the state of Oregon,
Mhm.
or some trust between them, uses its multitude of land and homes and buildings,
Forestry, all that, like the, all the
and
land.
it's like, okay, so now this is this is a tiny house project. It's a building, a series of homes, a
You know,
block.
I'm sorry. I think there's something already similar to that. There's a small organization called Proud Ground. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it.
And it's actually really
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I've heard of it.
So I think you apply, right? They give preference to families, right? To buy a house, right? But you don't own the land. I think the land belongs to the city or.
It's like a land trust, yeah.
It's a land trust, right? But they keep the payment very low, very affordable for many, many years, so that the rent or the mortgage doesn't increase. So I know a lot of people have purchased their first, home, 3-4 bedroom house, mainly in Southeast, Northeast, with a mortgage of $800. I mean, really, it's very affordable. It's very family orientated. So something like that will work in a big scale. This is just a smaller very